So the big question of the day, are they or are they not going to remake Resident Evil 0, Code Veronica, Resident Evil 1? Do we have Resident Evil 9 coming? The answer, I do think they are, yes. Have a great day. Seriously, alright, so here we go. Welcome back to the channel. After a bit of a hiatus, we are back to regularly scheduled content, and one of the big things that kind of brought me out of hibernation, y'all know I love Resident Evil. Y'all know there's a lot of talk about Resident Evil. You know there's a lot of stuff happening. One of the many things that's happening is a lot of talk starting to swirl about Resident Evil Remake. Now, Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil Code Veronica, and the jewel in the crown, Resident Evil 1, all rumored to be in the remake pipeline. Now, what does that mean for Resident Evil 9? I've seen a lot of people talking about that. I've seen some people saying it's coming first. I've seen some people saying it's being pushed back. My money would be one of these remakes is going to come out before Resident Evil 9. Now, I know that we got Village, and then we got 4 Remake, and they, a lot of people talking about, well, the Capcom cycle. We don't know if they have a cycle. We know what cycle companies love. That's the money cycle. They're probably going to go with what they think is going to sell the most. Now, what's going to sell the most, in my opinion, is what I think they should wait last for, and that is Resident Evil 1. I've seen a lot of rumors coming out saying that the game itself is going to be called Resident Evil 1. I love that. I think that's amazing. I think that's exactly what they need to do. Not Resident Evil Remake, or Resident Evil 1. Call it that. And I'd put it out last. I would put it out last. Especially if Resident Evil 9, if some of the rumors are to be believed, that it's going to wrap up the Chris Redfield and the whole Spencer Mansion crew. It's going to wrap up their story. I hope it does. I hate to see those characters go away, but I hope it does. I love a story with a beginning and an end. And I think it's time for Chris and Jill's story to end. We need to see Barry. We need to see some kind of like AI representation of Wesker. So I don't know. Wesker's too great of a villain to just be gone in a volcano. Of course, if you're going to go out, death in a mutated state in a fiery volcano with a missile flying at your head, I guess that's the way to go, right? That's the definitive way for an earthbound villain to meet his end, I suppose. But anyway, there are numerous things talking about Resident Evil 9. You all know I love Code Veronica. I'm whatever on Resident Evil 0. I like it. I like Resident Evil 0. It's not my top 5, but Code Veronica is. But if I were Capcom, if I were a betting man, I would put Resident Evil 0 out first. If you're going to remake 0, which I don't necessarily think there's a need to remake it, but it looks like they're just going to remake all of them. So put 0 out first, and then put Code Veronica out. One of the rumors I read, I don't believe this is from Residents of Evil, it may have been from IGN. Of course, I'm not a news source, I'm just talking to you all, so take it however you want. But I did see an article saying that both 0 and Code Veronica are simultaneously in development as remakes. I could believe that. They're both pretty hefty, girthy games on their own. Like, I think they're both around, if you get the most out of them, about 20, 25 hours maybe, if you get the most out of those experiences. I've only been through 0 once, way back in the day. I started to play through it again here recently and kind of dropped it. But I think if those are coming out simultaneously, you drop one year, you drop the other one the next year, and then you go with Resident Evil 9, and then you finish it off with still the greatest Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 1. Out of all the amazing games that have come and gone in the Resident Evil series, you can argue 4, you could argue 2. I would in fact argue 2 with Code Veronica. But Resident Evil 1 HD Remaster on the GameCube is still the definitive Resident Evil experience. It is an amazing game. It's full of suspense. It still looks great. There's some pre-rendered backgrounds and stuff, of course, but it still looks great. The vibe is there. It's everything you want in a Resident Evil game and more. I am saving that for last. That is the jewel in the crown. And then after you put Resident Evil 1 Remake out, or Resident Evil 1, you put that out, then you start a new chapter with Resident Evil. New characters, new direction, whatever you want to do. Like what they tried to do with 7, and then led into 8 or whatever with new characters, and it wound up bleeding into familiar characters and stuff. I think you can pick that up with Resident Evil 10, or start it over. Resident Evil subtitle. Resident Evil subtitle. After 9, I want to see them get rid of the numbered Resident Evils. Like, I'm kind of ready for them to get rid of the numbered Final Fantasies as well. Give us some subtitles. You know, we don't need to know that it's the umpteenth game of the series. We've all got Google. We know what number of game it is in the series. We don't have to do that anymore. Even Hollywood, as behind the times as they are, they've gotten on board with it. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of movies aren't part 1, part 2, part 3 anymore. So if you're gonna number movies or games or anything, it shouldn't go back past 4. I don't think. Once you get to something something part 5, something something part 6, it kind of loses its heft. So let's get away from that. Let's get with subtitles. I think Resident Evil after 9. I think you wrap up Chris and Jill and the original Spencer Raccoon City crew. I think you wrap that up, put a nice little bow on it, and you start something new. You start something over. You could reference those characters from time to time. You could even have a guest cameo from those characters from time to time. Of course, they're older. They're much older now. I saw someone joking online that, what's Jill, like 50? Should we 50 busting zombies? I'm like, Jill Valentine at 50 is better than most of these gamers at 25. So I don't want to hear that. Like, I'll take a 50-year-old Jill Valentine on my back over somebody slopping nonsense out there in their mid-20s on Twitter. Thank you very much. I will take that in a survival horror situation. No questions asked. Thank you very much. I'll take the check now. I will take the check, please. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Resident Evil, the remakes, what they got going on. What do you all think? Post your comments below. Let me know what you think. We're going to have regular content coming back all the time. Not as frequently as it was, but I'm not going to be disappearing for 2 or 3 months. So I'll be back next week with another take with something else, unless something else pops off. Y'all know how this community is. It's wild out there. Y'all are wild out there, and I'm here for it. Anyway, I'll talk at you all later. Have a great night. Be safe. Be good to each other. Keep rocking. Keep Resident Evil alive and well. And let's roll on into the next game. I will catch you all later.